Hello everyone, Steve Gage here, NASM certified personal trainer and co-owner of Engage Fitness. Today we're going to go over some outer thigh stretches, specifically on the IT band and all the muscles around that IT band. IT band is a tendon that runs from the top of your hip all the way across your knee, and some, depending on what position, will be either above the knee or below the knee. And what happens when we get that tightness is it's usually the muscles around, so the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, and sometimes all the way down to the calf. So we want to make sure we're stretching those out, allowing that hip to move around the way it was intended. So if you're going to start these exercises, and actually these stretches, we're going to start using a strap. So if you don't have a yoga strap available, that's totally fine. You can use a dog leash, a belt, just something that has a loop that you can loop around your foot with. So if you don't have a strap, pause the video now, grab that strap, and if you have yours ready to go, we'll get right into the stretches. So our first stretch, we're going to really focus on that hip and that IT band specifically. So we're lying down flat on our backs, and we're going to create that loop in our band and wrap that loop towards the middle, maybe a little bit towards the top of the foot. Getting that loop secure there, not so tight around the foot that it's cutting off circulation. So we're going to lie down, get that leg straight, getting that knee locked, because we want this leg as straight as possible. So we're bringing that leg just to where we feel it's comfortable, about halfway, and then we're just going to slowly, with the opposite hand, bringing that leg across the body, making sure we're not rolling all the way over because we lose all that stretch. We want to keep the hips down on the floor as close as possible, and the only one that comes up slightly is the hip you're stretching. Keeping that leg straight, because you'll notice if that leg bends, you lose all that tension in that IT band on the outside of the thigh. Keeping that leg straight, pointing the toes towards the knee, just slowly bringing that leg just to where you feel that stretch. Making sure you're following along with your breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Because if our body's tense, that area we're trying to stretch is also going to be tense, and we're not going to be able to stretch that area and alleviate that discomfort. And just bring that leg across the body. Holding this position for 30 seconds, continuing that breathing. And then bring it back down to the middle, back to the floor, pausing for a few moments. 3 sets of 30 seconds is the goal here. And your leg range of motion may be different than mine. We just want to bring it to the point where we can keep that leg straight. Because if you start to feel that knee bend, that's your end point. You want to stop just before that, keeping those toes pointed towards the knee. Bringing that leg across, and that gets you a nice stretch on the outside. You feel all the way to the top of that hip. Keeping those hips as level as we can. Get a little bit of a raise on the hip we're stretching. We just want to make sure we're not completely rolling over, because then it starts to get into the lower back, and we're really trying to focus on the IT band here. "30 seconds, and then bring it back to the middle, and then back down. And the reason we're using a strap is for most people, we aren't able to grab our feet and bring it over. So the strap gives us that little bit of extra reach and pull to get us into that stretch shape. So next we're going to be standing. Keep your straps close by, because we're going to continue to use them later on. So if you have a particular side that tends to get tight, start with that side. So we're going to grab the side we're stretching. In this case, mine is the right. So we're going to bring that issue leg right behind the other. And if you have issues or concerns with balance, make sure you're near something you can kind of grab onto in case you get a little unstable. Because we are closing the leg position, so it's going to make it a little more unstable. So just make sure you have that base, either a couch, bed, something to put your hand against in case you get a little wobbly. So next we're crossing that leg over, behind, cross the other one. And then we're just going to slowly, keeping the legs locked, we're just going to lean forward, and you're able to get the spine to roll. That's totally fine. We don't have to keep a strict neutral spine here. We're just lowering our bodies just to where we feel that stretch, making sure both feet are flat on the floor, because we'll find, especially if that IT band is tight, and as we start to come down, that back foot will raise up. We want to keep that foot flat, just like they're glued to the floor. And we're just getting into that bend. And you'll feel a lot of this through the hamstrings. We're stretching out that IT band. Anytime we cross the leg, we're stretching out that IT band across the hips. And just lowering yourself. And again, this is not a competition. If you make it to here and feel the stretch, and that's your end range of motion, that's totally fine. Just take this shape to where it suits you best. Continuing that breathing, allowing the upper body to just relax. If you need a little extra stretch, you can grab that back leg and give you a little more of a pull. But again, we're not yanking ourselves into that position. We want the slow, controlled motion into the stretch. Then we'll switch to the other side. So bringing that now left foot behind, that right, and definitely a balance implement in this as well. So we're crossing those legs over, getting the feet to touch, and just slowly leaning down. And as we're coming down, we're trying to get those hips up. That's going to add a little more stretch in the hamstrings and alleviate some of that tension in the IT band. The IT band is all definitely surrounded by the quads, which is 4 muscles, hamstrings, which is 2, and you also have all the tendons attached to the knee. So we're making sure we're getting good range of motion there, just going as low as we can, keeping that breath flowing, and just allowing the body to relax. Holding this for 30 seconds. And you'll find as you get more into this stretch, continuing your breathing, you'll be able to get down just a little bit lower. And then slowly rise up 1 vertebrae at a time until we're standing. And then return those feet back to that starting position. Shake off any tension that's in the quads and the hamstrings, any in the legs. We want to make sure we're not adding any more tension than we already have. So next we're going to drop down to the floor again. We're going to be on our stomachs this time. And we're using our strap. So we're finding that loop. And we're just, if you want to start to the side, it's a little easier to get to that foot. Wrapping that loop around the top of your foot. And next you're just going to bring that strap over the top of your shoulder. This is going to mainly stretch out the quadricep, those quads in the front of the leg. So with this, you just strap is over your shoulder and you're just bringing that, trying to bring that heel to the top of your butt. And with this position, since we're on the floor, it makes it a lot easier to keep those hips down. Because if we were standing, we have a tendency to dump backwards or move those hips around. We want to keep the hips level. So we're just bringing that foot, trying to bring it to the glute. And again, it's not a competition. It's just, you may be able to get to here and feel that stretch. That's totally fine. Take the stretch to where you feel it most. And just slowly pulling on that strap, trying to get that leg, that heel closer to the glute, feeling that stretch across the quads. Then we're going to get a little hip movement here. So now we're just going to raise that leg up. Again, trying to get into that stretch a little more. This is going to feel more across the front of the hips and the quads. 30 seconds. And then slowly lower back down. We don't want to just let go of the strap and have that knee drop. Then it hurts the knee. We're trying to have to stretch things out and get more mobile and pain-free, not add any more extra pain. Another set. Pulling on that band, raising that knee up. really feeling that stretch, and then lowering slowly back down to the floor. And then you can relax that leg and get back to all fours. 2 to 3 sets of 30 seconds is the recommended prescription for this stretch, and along with all the other stretches. Anything more than that, you start to aggravate the muscle we're trying to stretch. You want to give it just enough tension to release any stress, and also enough time to recover. So we're going to lie on our backs for our next stretch. So we're going to bring one knee up off the floor in that bent leg position, and we're just going to cross the other leg right above that knee on top of the thigh in that figure 4 position. So if you're unable to get that leg up that high, that's totally fine. Just drop down that leg is on the floor so there's less of an angle. And you can start there. And then as you get more comfortable with this shape, you can scoot that foot up and really get into this stretch. So now we're grabbing right around that knee, and imagine you're trying to take that knee and bring it up and over your opposite shoulder. So not just to that shoulder, you're trying to bring it up and over that shoulder. So scooting the leg up and then bringing it towards that shoulder. And then maybe you find a little more stretch if you lower that leg. It's totally up to you. This is one of those shapes you can take different modifications to where it serves you best. And we're just bringing that hip up and over to that opposite shoulder, feeling that stretch all the way down to the glutes and across the outer thigh. Making sure we're not holding the breath the whole 30 seconds. We want to be as relaxed and calm through these stretches. And relax, returning that leg back down and switching to the other side and starting with that figure 4 shape to start stretching out the outside a little bit. And then again, opposite hand reaches over, grabs that knee. You can also use the other hand for that little bit of extra support. And you're just bringing that leg up and over to that opposite shoulder. Seconds, 2 to 3 times each leg. Even though you may not feel tension on one side, I would recommend doing both, just making sure there's no less or more tension in one leg. You want to be as even as possible. And then relax, returning that leg to that figure 4 position. And relax. Turning back to neutral, again on all fours. And then we're going to do a little bit more of a IT band focus stretch here. So we're lying on our sides. You can either use your hand as an extra pillow for that neck support, or if you're able to keep your neck in that stable position. We just want to make sure we're not letting the neck fall or over cranking on that neck, because then we get that neck tightness we're trying to actively avoid here. So we're just going to reach behind us and grab that foot, the top of the foot that's on top, and just bringing that leg back as far as we can go, feeling that stretch across the hips as well as the quads. And next we're going to take the leg that's underneath, bringing that heel just above the knee. Just resting on top of that leg and just allowing that bottom leg to pull down that other knee to the floor. We're really going to get that stretch on the IT band all alongside the hip. Just holding this for that 20 to 30 seconds while maintaining, grabbing that foot in the back, because what that's going to do is stretch out the quad and alleviate some of that pressure in the IT band. A lot of times with IT band inflammation or irritation, it's not the IT band itself, it's one of the muscles that surround the IT band. So you have the quads, you have the hamstrings, all connect down to the knee, maybe a little bit of the glutes, and we're hitting all of those today. And relax, slide that foot off, and just release that foot. We never want to just let things go and let them snap. Just want to slowly control and release. And we're switching to other side. Again, keeping knees, hips, and shoulders in a line, creating that extra support with the hand. And starting with that quad stretch, just reaching behind, grabbing that foot. And if you have particularly tight quads and you're unable to get into that bench shape, I would recommend using the strap, like so. So you start with looping the strap around the foot and just bringing that strap behind you. And just allowing you to get into that quad stretch shape. Again, if you're unable to grab that foot with your hand, you can use the strap as a modification. And once we get into that quad stretch, we're sneaking that other foot underneath, right on top of that knee, if not above it, and just allowing that foot to pull down that leg. Because when that the knee is farther away from that hip, in this angle, it stretches out that IT band as well as the quads. Holding this for 30 seconds. Focusing on that breath. And then sliding off slowly that leg on the bottom, and then slowly releasing that leg on top. And for our last stretch, I'm going to hit that IT band again a little bit, as well as a little bit of the lower back. So we're sitting with legs extended, crossing one leg over the other, getting that foot flat. And we're taking opposite arm, elbow, and getting it right against that knee. You're crossing over that leg, connecting that elbow right above the knee. We never want to place pressure directly on the joint. We want to do it either above or below. And then we're just slowly rotating away from that leg, getting a little bit of lower back stretch in here. And then as we're rotating, we're driving that leg farther away from that hip. Because the farther away that knee is from the hip, you're going to feel that stretch on the outside of the thigh and the IT band. And you're getting a lower back stretch as well. Those bang for your buck stretches. And you'll notice as you get more able to move in this stretch, you can take the back hand and just scoot it a little farther back, getting a little more into that low back stretch and able to drive into that leg just a little bit more. Again, continuing that breath into the nose. Hold for a second. Exhale. And slowly release, bring the torso back to neutral. Arm crosses back over. And then we switch to other side. Again, starting with that foot flat on the floor. And if you're unable to get into this close of a shape, that's fine. Just take the foot a little farther out. It's not a competition. We're just finding where the shape serves us at that point in time. And then opposite hand crosses over, connecting right above that knee, and just slowly rotating away from that leg. Again, driving that elbow a little bit into that knee. We're trying to keep that arm as straight as possible for our anchor, and just pushing. And again, if we need to, scooting that hand a little farther back to get into more of that lower back stretch, and then we're able to drive into that leg a little more. And then slowly release, come back to neutral, get that arm back over, and return those legs to neutral. So thank you for joining me, everybody. I hope these outer thigh and IT band stretches were helpful and you can implement them into your routine. Again, These are not suggested every single one of these at the same time. Try these out, see which ones fit you most. You may find one or two, you might find all of them. I would suggest doing 2 to 3 times a week if you're really suffering from that IT band discomfort and leg pain. Well, thanks again for joining me, guys. Have a good day. Be safe, be kind, and choose to be well. Take care.